All right, let's talk about some homeschooling myths. And to be honest, these are myths that I believed myself as well at some point before I started homeschooling. So let's dig in and see what these are and how they have been debunked. The very first myth out there is that you need to have some sort of teaching experience to homeschool. When it comes to teaching experience and a bachelor's in education, that is not something that you need. Does the experience help when it comes to dealing with certain things? I think it might, yes. Like if, for example, I feel like I have a lot of experience differentiating instruction and, changing curriculum things up so that it fits students' needs. I've done that my entire career. So to me, that comes naturally. And I look at a curriculum, and when I look at the curriculum, I don't think, I'm going to do this from beginning to end. No, my brain immediately starts thinking, okay, let's see, how am I going to make this work for my child? So that I do feel is good to have, but no, you don't need teaching experience for that. My husband is an amazing homeschool educator. He is mind-blowing. I love watching him with our children, and I love seeing all the amazing work that he does with our kids, and he has zero teaching experience. So there you go. The second myth is that you need to be a stay-at-home mom to be able to successfully homeschool your children. I think we have busted that one pretty well here in our home. I am not a stay-at-home mom. I work a full-time job. I am home in the summertime because I do get my summers off as a teacher. So I get to have that time with my children in the summer. And, whenever there are the traditional holiday breaks. But I'm not a stay-at-home mom. I work. I go and I work outside of the home, and then I come home and I do whatever I can with the time that I have. My husband is also a full-time working parent, and he homeschools the kids as well. So this is something that we do together as a team. And the fact that is a belief out there that you have to be a stay-at-home mom to be able to homeschool is a myth. We've busted that one pretty hard. Now, does it help? Yes. Oh my goodness, yes. If you are a stay-at-home parent and homeschooling your kids is what you have to focus on, my goodness, that does make life a lot easier. And I attest to that because in the summer I do stay at home and I see what life is like when you are at home with your kids. So I know that homeschooling your children, if you're a stay-at-home parent, is so much easier. However, it's not the requirement. The next myth that I would like to address is the myth that homeschooling families need to have a lot of children. I have two kids and we homeschool them, and I don't have a 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 children. Nope. My husband, in his family, he was homeschooled and they had 3 kids. One of my really, really good friends homeschooled her one son. One son. So I feel like there is this stigma or this, I'll put it that way, stigma, that you homeschool if you have a lot of kids. And that is not true, because I know a lot of people, actually most of the people that I personally know that homeschool, that I've met also in like the library reading clubs that I have, they have 2 kids, 1, some 3. Rarely have I known somebody that has a lot of kids and they homeschool. Typically that's something that you might see on TV maybe, or some people that have YouTube channels that have a beautiful, wonderful, large family homeschool as well. So I see that maybe that has attributed to the stigma. It's a blessing to have a lot of children, and if you can have a lot of children, that's wonderful. But we have our 2 and we homeschool. So there's another myth busted. Okay, so the next myth is one that this one I really was believing a lot. My husband had to like tie my feet down and bring me down to earth to let me know that this is not a thing. So I thought to homeschool, you had to have an entire room and you had to put it like a classroom with a chalkboard and books here and books there. And that was my mind. I thought that to homeschool, that was like something that needed to happen. And my husband quickly brought me down and told me, I never had that when I was a kid. I just sat in the dinner table and did my work and then put it away in my room. And I was like, really? But no, you need this and that. He was like, no, you don't. Our homeschooling space is honestly our living room and our dining room. And we have backpacks. We have a wall, which is typically where we've had a desk before we even start homeschooling. We have a wall and there's our desk and our little cubby from IKEA, and that holds all of our curriculum. We have a little caddy there for like extra stuff, like extra materials, but that's about it. That's where all of our homeschooling stuff is. I do have the cursive alphabet on the top because my son likes to use it as a reference. And May, like whenever she's thinking of something, she looks at, like it's a reference, they use that. And I do stick certain things on the wall, like sight words or the Bible verses that the kids are working on and stuff like that. But I don't have a designated per se homeschool room just to homeschool. In our mud room, I do have cubbies, and that's where we put our backpacks and our coats and our shoes. So the kids usually have their to-go stuff in those backpacks that my husband grabs on the way out. So that is also another spot where we have our homeschool stuff, but to have a designated space just for homeschooling, that doesn't exist for us. So that myth is busted. Another homeschool myth, and this one I also did believe myself, is that your kids are gonna turn out to be weird. That is a myth. And it's so funny because when I used to talk to my husband about why we shouldn't homeschool, this was one of the things that I always used to say. I used to say, Hans, I don't want our kids to be weird. Like, I want them to be, able to socialize with everyone. And then he would always come back and say, so you think I'm weird? And I'd be like, no, absolutely not. You can talk to everybody. And he would tell me that that's the reason why he can talk to everybody, because he didn't just talk to kids that were his age. My husband can talk to an 80-year-old, to a 20-year-old, to a 13-year-old, to a 40-year-old, to a 30-year-old, to a 1-year-old, it doesn't matter what age the person is. My husband can talk to anybody without a problem and strike a conversation and find some sort of a common ground, and people love him. And he's an introvert, but he is so good at talking to people from different backgrounds, diverse backgrounds, different ages, different stages of their life. My husband is so good at that. And he attributes that to homeschooling. He always talks about how he always had experiences with people in all ages, not with a group of people that were his age all day long. It is truly a myth, and it's really up to the parents, like what you do. When we're homeschooling, we are not inside the house all day long, not seeing the great outdoors and interacting with other people. That is not what homeschooling is. They go out, they interact with people, they talk with people at church, they have friends that come over and play with them, they go to the playground and they play with friends. They're social. They're not, people aren't going to be like, your kids won't be weird. I think, what is normal anyways, right? So that is a myth that I can say can be busted. Another myth that I often encounter is that people think if you homeschool, you also have tons of land with animals and a farm, and you do all these things in the middle of nowhere. And that is not true. I live smack in the middle of the city. We do not have acres and acres of land. We have a little tiny bit of land in the city, and in that tiny little space that we have, we do have a little garden, and that's about it. You can live in an apartment, you can live in the city and homeschool with not a problem. You don't have to have a farm and live in the boondocks to homeschool. It is a wonderful thing. Would I one day love to live somewhere where we have land? Yeah, that is a nice idea. That's a nice concept. Eventually, Lord willing, if we are able to, I would like to have a little bit more land rather than just the tiny little bit of land that we have here in this tiny little block in the city. But for this season of our life, this is where the Lord has placed us, and we are happy and we feel very, very blessed. So yeah, no, that myth is clearly busted. Another myth for homeschooling is that your days will go as planned. Days never go as planned in a regular traditional classroom ever. Like, it's rare, and the like one time that it does, it's like heaven and you're so happy, and it's never happening when you're being observed. But in your home, days aren't going to go as planned. Sometimes your kids might wake up cranky. Sometimes somebody might not be feeling well. Sometimes things are just gonna change. Things happen. So your days aren't going to go as planned, and that is just the way the cookie crumbles. This next one I like, okay? That homeschooling families all have a bunch of craft supplies, and they have this beautiful craft closet. I do not own such a closet. I have a tiny little tote that has construction paper and scissors, and the kids have a little art set, and if we need special supplies for a craft project, I will go buy it at that time. I look at these closets and I'm like, wow, wow. I mean, before I had kids and we were just two people living in a 3-bedroom home, I used to have one of the rooms be my scrapbooking room. I used to scrapbook a lot. And I had a table in the center, and I had all my scrapbooking supplies, and it was a beautiful, wonderful thing. Once kids came into the picture, I took all that craft stuff and I put it in a big box, and they're up in my attic. So even sometimes when I need like craft paper, like fancy paper or stickers or whatnot, I'll just go up to the attic to my old scrapbooking stuff, and I'll bring 1 or 2 things that I need down, and then that's it. And last but not least, another homeschooling myth is that homeschooling families own every book under the sun and they have read it all. Nope. It's wonderful if you have your own home library and you have bookshelves and bookshelves and bookshelves of books. That, if that works for your family, that's beautiful and is a wonderful thing. In our home, we have one bookshelf, and it's in my daughter's room, and she has all her picture books in there. And then my son has like this tiny little thing where he has a couple books that he likes. But for the most part, we borrow our books from the library. My kids aren't really kids that love to read the same book over and over and over again. So we borrow the book and then we give it back, and that works wonderfully for our family. We don't have the space to have a full-blown library in our home. Neither do we need one, because for our family, that's not how it works well. I love to read. Trust me, I'm a reader. I love reading. I've always been a bookworm ever since I was a kid. But even then, I would go to the library, borrow the book, and then return it. So we do buy books once in a while if the kids really like them, if they really want them. And as a classroom teacher, I had totes and totes and totes of books from my classroom library, and I still have them because I no longer have like a full-blown classroom. I have an ESL room now, so like I still have the books from when I was a 6th grade teacher, and I've invited my son to go look through the books, and oftentimes he's still kind of like meh, you know, he'll pick 1 or 2 books, but that's about it. How about you? Do you have any homeschooling myths that your family has busted, or that you had believed that they were true and then you homeschooled yourself and you realized that is not the case? Go ahead and let me know in the comments below. I always love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.